Welcome back. This is Power Breakfast on Citizen TV. Trust you're having a fantastic morning. Interesting discussion that I'm about to have here regarding the issue of regaining trust as a business from your consumers once it is lost. I'm joined in studio right now by Ian Ng'ethe, who is the CEO of Razor Resource. Welcome to Power Breakfast.
Thank you very much, Joy.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Now, I understand that your organization, that you deal with issues of trust and employee engagement. So maybe we'll get to know a little bit more about what that means. But the main issue I wanted to talk about today is what happens in an organization once you've lost the trust of the consumer. So let's start with maybe why that happens. Is it just an issue of, I mean, you've heard, some high-profile cases of businesses that have lost money for its customers, and then things kind of go haywire. But what is the real issue of why that happens?
I think, Joy, the first thing I'd like to maybe bring into perspective is, what trust is. And in its simplest definition, and when you look at what trust is, we're looking at confidence. And the opposite of that is distrust, or basically people being suspicious. And, Stephen M.R. Covey, who will be coming later this month on 30th and 31st to Kenya, actually also has a component that says that trust can be defined in two ways. One is from a character side, and the other one from a competence side. And so from a character side, it's basically your ethics, your values, your empathy. And then from a competency side, it's basically, are you able to do the task? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have the skills? And so what we say is you can actually trust somebody from just their character and their values, but you might not trust them when it comes to competence. In other words, if I was to break that down a little bit, you can have a hairdresser that you really like and the integrity is fine. But when it comes to making your hair, because they might not know how to put together the chemicals, or maybe they haven't gone to school, then you might not trust them with your hair. So I just wanted to bring that into perspective before we then get into a business situation. And, when we look at businesses where people are not trusting them, it means that one of those two things are not working. Either their character or their competence is not right. And so maybe we can start from there. Yeah,
so how does that impact how the business begins to operate at that point when you look around and you realize our consumer base no longer trusts us for either of those two reasons? How does that affect the business in that moment?
I think the first thing that happens to that business is that they're going to start losing customers.
Right.
And, customers only come to businesses that have the right brand reputation. And brand reputation comes as a result of the fact that you have the right values and also the fact that you're competent. So if you, for example, are an organization that delivers travel as an airline, first of all, I have to trust you as someone who has the right values. You're operating within certain ethical dimensions. And then secondly, you need to be competent enough to take me where I need to be at the time that I want to be there. And so again, we come back to those elements that customers will always run away from you if they feel that one of those balances are not there. So it's critical for those two balances to be there.
Yeah, and definitely something that raises alarm there. I had someone on social media, I forgot the exact handle, but they said something to the effect that regaining trust in business is harder than closing a deal in the first place. Do you agree with that statement?
I agree. One of the values of business, the most critical one that can actually be broken and is harder to bring back, is a whole area of trust. It is possible to build it, but it takes time to build it.
Right.
And so there are actually ways that you can build trust back into a business. And when we look at what Stephen M.R. Covey teaches, he actually says there are 5 ways that we can actually bring back trust into a business. And it starts really at the self level. So if you're a CEO or the owner of a business, you need to be trustworthy. And for you to be trustworthy, there are 4 things that you need to have, and one of them is you need to have integrity. Secondly, people need to feel that your intentions are right for them. And then you need to have the capability, meaning you need to have a track record of having, of knowing what you're doing. You're competent enough to be able to deliver the services that they're looking at. And then finally, you need to be result-oriented. So that's the first level of, how you can build trust.
So it starts at the very top.
Start at the very top and then goes all the way to your organization and goes to the society. And so we can look at how you can build, trust at relational, organizational, market, and societal level.
Yeah. Is organizational because I would assume if there's trust lost amongst consumers, employees as well are sort of affected by that and start to maybe question what's going on in this business. Am I in the right place? Should I? Yeah. Those types of things. And
you said it right. And that's organizational trust. And so in many companies, when you look at the trust levels, there are issues of the fact that there's no open communication. And so staff and employees don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
There are also, organizations where credit is not given to those that it should be given to.
Right.
And that actually breaks trust. And also, when you look at those organizations, you find symbols that denote a lack of trust, whereas others do denote trust. So symbols that show that there's no trust in the organization are things like a 500-page manual, which is an employee handbook, which details every little rule about that organization. That's actually a trust symbol that shows there's distrust in the organization.
Right.
On the converse, you can actually have a trust symbol, or say a CEO who decides they're not taking a salary raise because the organization is not doing well. So you can actually build trust at the organizational level as well.
Yeah.
Right.
When we go to the societal level, there's this assumption in Kenyan society that expect some form of corruption, in various organizations. So it's almost something that we expect to happen. So when we hear that this business has run off with your money, you're kind of like, I saw that coming, in some form. Is this an issue for us as Kenyans that we need to change that mentality so that we can have higher expectations for the people that we're doing business with?
I think the issue is not the consumers. The issue is the people that are delivering the services. There's actually a crisis of trust in this country.
Yeah.
And you just need to look at banks, look at our education institutions, look at our media, look at government, look at churches. In each of those areas, you can actually point at things that are going on that have ended up in low trust, what we call low trust taxes.
Right.
And therefore, consumers and people that are getting services from those institutions rightly have very low trust in them. And so I think the question is, what do they need to do to be able to regain trust.
Regain that trust.
And when you look at our country, because of that crisis of trust, we are suffering from two things. Some organizations are suffering from low trust dividends, or rather low trust taxes, while others are enjoying what we call high trust dividends. Let me break that down a little bit. When an organization has low trust in it, then the cost of doing business actually goes up. Right. And the speed of doing business goes down. As I was coming into, Citizen, I had to go through a security check. Now, it's nothing to do with Citizen, but because the country has become very low trusting in security affairs,
so that's
it means that every building you get into, you have to be checked and searched. So what does that do for business? It actually slows down the business, and it's also expensive for the business because you have to have additional security, you have to have scanning machines, and that's not good.
Yeah. So
that just demonstrates that when you have a low trust environment, the cost of doing business goes up and the speed goes down.
Yeah.
And the converse is true. Where you have high trust, then the speed of doing business goes up, and the cost of doing business goes down.
So as you've spoken, you know, this affects all different aspects of both the business and society.
Right.
Perhaps you can just give us, you know, as consumers who are watching, what should we do? Should we expect more from all these different organizations you've mentioned, such as church and media and government and whatnot?
Right.
And, you know, in this day and age also of social media, word goes around very, very quickly. I mean, somebody posts online that this bank did this to me or whatever, creates a panic as we've seen recently. So maybe just some final keys from a consumer's point of view of what we can do to help this process along.
I think what we should do is that we should vote with our pockets. We should only engage and work with organizations that really deliver results to us. And that's how we should get rid of those that do not deliver results to us.
Right.
And when we do that, then it's a very strong message that when you do right, when you can be trusted, then you get my money and you get my loyalty. So that's what the consumer should do. And we know situations where, you know, when I look at Kenya, we have some great examples of companies that have, or organizations, let me put it that way, that have high trust and they're being rewarded properly. When I think about the Beyond Zero campaign by Her Excellency Margaret Kenyatta,
First Lady,
I would say that, you know, people see that as a high trust organization.
Right.
And you can see that in terms of success, you know, being successful, she's been very successful in speedily implementing her objectives of having a mobile, you know, medical unit in almost each of the counties, of the 47 counties. I can tell you, perhaps if it was me or somebody else, I wouldn't have done it as quickly as she did it. So she's enjoying high trust dividend. I think to an extent, you know, one of our biggest mobile, you know, phone companies is also enjoying that, you know, through their mobile transfer system.
Yeah, but then again, that has taken time.
It's taken time, and trust sometimes takes time to build.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this conversation. It's good to end on that positive note that there are some organizations who are getting it right, when it comes to trust in business. So I think we've started the conversation. If you would like to continue it, definitely use the hashtag Power Breakfast on social media to let us know your thoughts about this conversation with Ian Ng'ethe, who is the CEO of Razor Resource. Thank you again for being here. We've got a chef competition that's going to be taking place a little bit later on this show today. You don't want to miss that. Willis will be joining me and a couple chefs on the other side of the studio. But for